Hi guys, today is the 31st of July 2022. It is 37 minutes past 10 in the evening over here in the UK. I want to make this video very quickly. It covers a lot of things that we've already gone over in previous videos. So let's just get started. I'm focusing today on an event that could possibly happen soon. Obviously, there's been plenty of interpretations where we have looked at events, future events that could potentially happen, and they haven't happened on the dates that we've looked at. So I'm reluctant to give specific dates nowadays in these videos and more talk about the events, but I will be covering some dates in this video just because I have to. So the Apple, we know that it has a connection with New York, as in the Big Apple. I'm going to play the video. If you don't want to hear the sound, please mute your audio. One of the things this apple does is it rolls over this image here on the ground, which looks like an L facing us, but we believe that this interpretation is supposed to be viewed from Obama's perspective, which is who the foot belongs to here. So if that's the case, then this is actually a 7. Now, this could be telling us after the 7th month, potentially after July. Of course, if they're looking at the Roman calendar, then that could be an interpretation for after September. Both interpretations keep in your mind. But for now, I'm just going to look at July, as we are at the end of July. And some things are popping up in the news and in my feeds that are, kind of leading me down this path. So here we go. If we are talking about just after the 7th, we have this whole blackout scenario where the torchlight follows the apple along the ground as it rolled over to this point in the video here. We see this C shape on the ground, which is textured, and it has like a frothy kind of wave-like texture to it. So we believe this is the interpretation for a tsunami. On the apple itself, we have the image of a volcano with the lava coming out just here and the magma. Is that right? Magma? The ash, sorry, erupting up out of the apple. They've drawn it as the streaks along the apple. It's all very well designed to look like a normal apple, but when you look at the finer details, you can see that actually there could be an interpretation for a volcano on there. We've looked at several. La Cumbre Vieja, the La Palma, that's over in Spain, the Canary Islands area. We've looked at Stromboli, we've looked at Mount Etna, Kilauea in Hawaii, Mauna Loa also in Hawaii, and there's another underground volcano, I forget the name, which is off the coast of Africa, but that one I've talked about less than the other 5 that I just mentioned. So we then have, play a little bit more. We then have the apple split open, and we, or me and others, have often interpreted that as with the volcano being on the apple itself and then it's splitting, the potential that during the eruption, the flanks or one side of the volcano collapses into the water that surrounds it. And obviously a large amount of soil or dirt or earth crashing into the ocean at a fast pace would disturb the water around it, potentially generating a tsunami, depending on how big the explosion was and how big the flank collapse was. But in the other interpretation here, we have the representation for New York, as I've said, with the Big Apple. And then out of the apple, out of the middle of the apple, connecting through the roots and the seeds, we have a flower blooming, a lotus flower, I believe it is, which represents regeneration, kind of destruction and regeneration. So we've often looked at that flower blooming as some sort of explosion, a bomb associated with the New York area. Within the apple itself, we have a couple of things. I'm just going to take a little screen right here. I've pointed this out numerous times. Sorry, let me erase that. Change this to a pencil. That will do. So we have the number 8 connecting in the middle there with the seeds, with the roots from the seeds, making that number 8 along the shadow that it forms. Obviously, if this over here is to represent the passing of July, then it would make, sorry, terrible writing, then it would make sense in some sorts that we then have the next month following into August. Number of interpretation for dates with this. We have the potential for August 1st. I'll just write them on the side here. August 2nd, you can put them together and you can have August 3rd. You can also interpret this as August 12th, for example, 1 and 2, or reverse that and have August 21st. There's also the potential for you've got an empty seed here, an empty seed pocket here, and one seed here, so you could have the number 10, and on the other side you could have the number 11. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potential dates taken from the actual, let me do one more. The 3 collective seeds and the 1 empty space could also bring us to the 31st or even the 30th. So we actually have 9 potential dates in August where these events could happen. It could be all on the same day, or could be spaced out through multiple days. Perhaps one day there's a volcanic eruption, another day there's a volcanic collapse, another day there's a tsunami, another day there's an explosion. So there's lots of dates there to look out for, which is why the video is so difficult to interpret and to put solid information on. However, with the interpretation for an explosion in New York, let me just get rid of that. As you can see, if the apple does represent the big apple, which is New York, and then we have the lotus flower representing destruction, regeneration, as in an explosion in the middle of New York, for example, and then we also have a indication of money involved, that kind of leads me and others to the New York Stock Exchange. Later on in this video, if I can find it very quickly, it's been a long time since I watched this video, so things aren't as clear in my, there we are, this point here. So at this point in the video, we have all these businessmen with their briefcases, and then in the middle of it, we have the Antichrist figure rise up like a nuclear explosion. Like a nuclear explosion. And if that is an interpretation for an explosion at the New York Stock Exchange, that would then connect, in my opinion, to the scene with the little boy and his eyes, where we see markets plunge as it goes across, followed by war, and then... So I'm not sure if you saw that because I had the play button on the screen. I'll just try that again. So the scenario as it builds is an explosion at the New York Stock Exchange, followed by markets plunging, which would make sense, followed by war coverage. Now, when I thought of war coverage, I thought, who would the war be against? Obviously, there's war with Russia and Ukraine right now, but I think the blame would be placed on Iran. As we can see here, we're in the middle of a kind of oceanic area. We have the top of a submarine where these explosions are coming out of. Another sort of ship over here. Obviously they're drawn as buildings, but if you look at just the shape of them, and you can see the water in the background, you've got the bridge going across. There looks like there's some sort of explosion in the background over here, whether that's from a volcanic eruption or from a nuclear detonation. I can't tell, but what I can tell is the smoke rising up over here, the orangey kind of color that kind of surrounds the bottom of it, leads me more to a nuclear explosion. But obviously volcanoes have that orange kind of glow as well with the magma and the lava. So again, both of those scenarios seem to play in at the same time. Then when I started thinking about would they blame Iran, that led me to obviously the points in the video where we see Osama bin Laden and the oil stopping. So I believe if war was declared against Iran, they have a lot of control over oil in terms of blocking the Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about that a lot. And if that happens, obviously the oil would slow down, not stop completely. But as you can see in this video, I'll just play it again. The oil delivery slows to a drip. And we have, again, this kind of smoky, circular, wave-like motion going on. So you could interpret that as a tsunami wave, as if you was in the middle of it like a surfer. You would see this kind of imagery. Again, you can interpret it as smoke clouds from either a nuclear detonation or volcanic eruption. But then obviously you have Osama bin Laden referring us to the Middle East and how that may be connected. But then again, you have the CIA badge on there. So that may be who the real culprits of any sort of explosion at the New York Stock Exchange or elsewhere, they would be the real culprits. So we have the next scene here, which again seems to bring us into a tsunami wave moving towards the New York area. Lights going out, blackout again. So again, that scenario is repeated. Or we could have the scenario being, rather than like a blackout from a hurricane or from a cyber attack, it could be an EMP, which would be a nuclear scenario again. And again, we're placed in New York with that, with the Statue of Liberty being that representation. Obviously, the Roe v. Wade situation seems to come up in here, and that happened recently. So maybe that's pinning us down to a time frame or to a year. Obviously, the Roe v. Wade precedent was overturned this year by the Supreme Court, and that may be what we're seeing here. You know, children that have been abandoned being allowed, children that would be abandoned, sorry, being allowed to live. So here we have, or put to, I don't even want to say that, so I'm just gonna, you know what I'm talking about. But that seems to be the scenario that we have here. So thinking about all of that, I was like, okay, I know that Iran over the years has been working towards nuclear power, nuclear bombs and stuff like that. So I went onto Google and I typed in Iran nuclear, and just today, of all the days, when I saw it, I was just like, oh, come on. Either God is leading me here or something crazy is going on. Because Iran says it will build nuclear warheads and turn New York into hellish ruins. Isn't it just perfect if a bomb did go off in New York, a nuclear warhead or a dirty bomb, for it to be blamed on Iran, and for the war to be, you know, kick off, really begin in the Middle East. I know we've seen a lot of war in the Middle East, but nothing would be on this level. This would be World War III, the beginning of World War III. This war would last for years. From the interpretations that I'm getting, it would be the shortest of the world wars because of the weaponry that we have, and potentially it would last until 2025, which is the indication this video gives me. Starting from 2012 to 2025, events covering that span of years. And then obviously when I thought of all of that and the fact that we're rolling into August, it just brought me back to the video I did reversing the George Bush audio from the beginning of the iPad Go-To video, where he appears to say the word August at least 3 times. And I'm just going to play this whole video and then I'll bring this entire video to an end. Hi guys. Last year in August, I made a video with the iPad Go-To audio reversed, the part where George Bush is speaking. And at that time, I surmised that it was saying August. August passed last year, and I thought, okay, nothing. But this year has come, and we've discovered that the video has reference to the Wuxi Year of the Dog, which is this year, 2018. We've seen various events take place this year. So it's more likely that it's this year than it was last year. So looking at the video, I, found 27th of July and the 3rd of August. And what I want to do for you now is just play the audio reversed when George Bush is speaking. I put it into Audacity and I've isolated the vocals, so it's the clearest that I've ever managed to get it. And I think you guys will agree that there is speaking there. In the beginning, it's a little bit muddled. Can't really
100% make out what it's saying, although to me it sounds like "what can you see" or "walking with me" or something like that. And then it goes on to George Bush says something else, which I can't make out. But then after that, he says August 3 times, and I don't give a F. So I'm going to play it and see if you guys hear it and agree.
So that was the video that I made in 2018, and a lot of you are familiar with it. It's one of the more popular videos on my channel. Pointing to August, it doesn't specify a year, but every August for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been keeping my eyes open to see if any of these events that this video talks about could potentially happen. And again, I don't know if anything's going to happen this August, next August, August in 10 years. I always pray that it doesn't, because devastation, the loss of life, the destruction, the chaos, it would be too much for the majority of people to bear. Even myself being as mentally prepared for something like this to happen would be a shock. I wouldn't know what to do really with myself. It's not as if, you know, there's mountains of money I can go and hide myself in a bunker or anything like that. I would be as exposed to the events as anybody else would be, despite the fact that we may have potentially seen it coming from years ago. The reason I'm making this video is because, as I said in the beginning, I have to. There's something that drives me to do this for whatever reason, whether it's to warn people or to get it on record, I don't know. Obviously, when I make these kind of videos and I think to myself, if it did happen, how much trouble could I potentially be in? You know, I could be whisked away by some government agency and blamed or accused of being a part of the operation or agenda. But, you know, at the end of the day, I have to put my faith in God, the Heavenly Father, who I believe is guiding me with these videos and with some of the thoughts that just come to my head. There's not much thinking that goes on. It just pops in there and I make these links, whether they're stretches, exaggerations, I don't know. But they seem to kind of flow. They have a sequential pattern to them, you know? So it's like past July into August, as I've shown you earlier in the video with the apple, the reference to New York, the references to the volcanoes, to the tsunamis, to the blackout, to the stock exchange, to the war coverage, to Iran. It all seems to flow one after the other. Each event links nicely to the other. So with that said, I'm going to end the video now. And I pray that none of these things happen, and that everyone watching and everyone not watching remains in good health. As we know, health is a big problem these days, but the Bible did tell us during the end times there would be pestilences and plagues and many other things happening which appear to be happening now. And I use the word appear because the words in the Bible can be manipulated by parties that want to make it look a certain way when it may not actually be that certain way. But with that said, you guys, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.